Welcome back, Commanders. In today's Explainer, we're talking Protoss, specifically the High Templar. If you're an intermediate Protoss player, you obviously know what a High Templar is. You've cast Psionic Storm, you probably landed a really juicy one, watched a whole ball of Hydralisks just evaporate, and felt that absolute rush of a perfect spell. But today, we're shifting your perspective. We're moving away from just hoping for a lucky hit and moving towards deploying this unit with absolute geometric precision.
So, we need to challenge a really common habit. If you're still looking at Storm as just a situational reward, like a nice bonus when an engagement accidentally lines up perfectly for you, you're making a pretty massive mistake. The master-level view treats the High Templar as essential infrastructure. At the absolute highest levels of play, this unit is just as fundamental to controlling the late-game map as a photon cannon or a reaver. It's an essential piece of your kit to secure areas and completely break established Zerg defenses.
To completely demystify this unit, we have to look at the cold, hard math. And the magic number here is exactly 112 raw damage. That's the number you literally need to burn into your memory. Why? Because absolutely every single decision you make with a High Templar on the field revolves entirely around applying that exact amount of damage.
The reality of this ability is honestly pretty unforgiving, and it's all in the mechanics. Psionic Storm deals that 112 damage over 8 specific ticks, each lasting a third of a second. The very first tick kicks in about 2/3 of a second after you actually click cast. The great news is it completely ignores enemy armor, it's just pure raw damage. But here's the catch, and this is what separates the intermediate players from the pros: multiple storms do not stack their damage. Oh, and it completely shreds your own friendly units just as fast as the enemies. You can't just spam it everywhere and hope for multiplied damage. It takes precise timing and exact spacing.
Just look at this iconic 96 by 96 pixel square of raw psychic energy. Because the damage from multiple storms doesn't stack, and because that damage rolls out over time, your targets can actually avoid a lot of it if they just walk out of the area. So your placement geometry has to be flawless. You have this tiny specific window to trap units inside that exact 96 pixel grid.
Which brings us to the exact late-game Zerg defensive wall you are constantly going to face: burrowed lurkers and hydralisks tucked tightly behind sunken colonies. A lot of intermediate Protoss players will just attack move their ground forces right into this literal meat grinder, and they lose half their army before they even realize what's happening. Breaking this wall depends entirely on how you use your High Templars.
The secret here is rigorous sequencing. If you march your Dragoons into unburrowed lurker range before your storms actually land, your entire push is going to collapse. So, step 1, you always identify exactly where those burrowed lurkers are using an observer. Step 2, hold your ground army back. Seriously, do not let them wander forward. Step 3, slide your High Templar forward under the observer's vision. Step 4, drop that storm right on top of the burrowed lurker cluster, and only then, at step 5, do you move your Dragoons in to mop up whatever survived.
So why does this exact sequence work so perfectly? It's all about a mechanic called behavior interruption. A burrowed lurker has 200 hit points and 1 base armor. One single storm takes that 200 HP lurker down to roughly 88 HP, completely ignoring its armor. That creates a massive problem for the Zerg player. They cannot just leave it sitting there taking that raw damage. It actually interrupts the unit's behavior, forcing them to frantically unburrow and micro away. And while they're doing that, that lurker is totally unable to attack your advancing Protoss ground units. You are basically forcing them to move using pure mathematical threat.
This perfectly illustrates the technique of storm displacement. When you're dealing with a highly mobile group of Hydralisks, they naturally want to retreat away from your advancing army. So instead of targeting the dead center of their group, you target the edge that's closest to your own units. You use their natural retreat path against them, so they essentially walk right into the full duration of the storm. On the flip side, against established static defenses, you want to drop your storm right on the physical gap between the stationary sunken colonies and the Hydralisk pack. The sunkens obviously can't move, and the Hydras want to hug them for safety. With one geometric placement, you're punishing both.
Before we scale this strategy up from these micro-level fights to controlling the whole map, I want you to think about this piece of StarCraft lore. It describes Psionic Storm as raw psychic energy that is capable of literally tearing apart the minds of lesser species. I mean, that perfectly captures the devastating power you have at your fingertips. If you treat the ability with that kind of respect, your opponents are going to be forced to do exactly the same. Okay, let's zoom out. We need to see how this translates from micro-level combat to big-picture map control. You have to completely change your mindset here and start viewing the map as contested airspace. A High Templar just standing out on the map isn't merely a unit waiting around for a fight to happen.
Its very presence, its potential for a psionic storm, is an absolute declaration of territory.
Think about it. The entire Zerg economic engine relies on freedom of movement, swarming the map constantly with cheap, incredibly fast units. But if you position a High Templar right between your natural expansion and your third base, you completely shut down those Zerg harassment corridors. That visible Templar is a massive psychological deterrent. You're basically installing a no-fly zone. Any competent Zerg player knows exactly what that lone unit represents. Sending a swarm of units into that specific airspace without a massive numerical advantage is just an instant losing proposition for them. You are controlling the map simply by existing on it.
Now, to complement that late-game territorial control, we have to talk about another absolute powerhouse of a spellcaster that functions as base infrastructure, the Dark Archon. You get this by merging 2 Dark Templars, and it gives you this massive 250 shield presence right out on the battlefield. Because it costs so much gas and minerals, you're only making these for very specific, high-stakes situations in the late game. It is your specialized infrastructure answer to one of the most terrifying compositions a Protoss player can face, the Zergling and Ultralisk Swarm.
The whole reason you morph a Dark Archon is for one specific ability, and that's Maelstrom. This spell instantly freezes all organic units within a 3 metrics radius for exactly 7.48 seconds. And since literally every single Zerg unit is organic, this spell instantly locks down an entire charging pack of Ultralisks and Zerglings. It gives you this mathematically precise way to just halt their movement entirely. And while they're frozen there in place, your Archons and Zealots can just systematically shred them without taking a single hit in return.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself one question next time you queue up. Are you just out there casting spells, crossing your fingers for a lucky hit on a clump of Hydralisks? Or are you actually controlling the map, treating your High Templars and Dark Archons as the critical infrastructure they really are? Remember, true mastery in Protoss vs. Zerg means commanding the geometry of the entire battlefield. Stop waiting around for lucky bonuses, start doing the math, and claim your territory. See you next time, Commanders!